Call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Who's on Zoom?
Sherwood and Helen.
Welcome Sherwood, welcome Helen.
Thank you.
We'll get right on to get a motion to approve the minutes of February 11th.
So moved.
Seconded.
And has everybody read them?
Yes.
Is there any discussion?
Nothing for me.
No?
No.
Okay. Shall we move to a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Do you want to see if Sherwood wants to?
Abstain.
Okay, so you have 3 yes and 1 abstain. Okay, additions and deletions. We'll talk later about in old business about the greater classified ad. Having trouble with my tongue. There are no members of the public. There is no correspondence. We'll move on to the warrants.
I can read the warrants.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to pay the warrants. Number 1, payroll in the amount of $15,377.35. Number 2, payroll taxes in the amount of $7,509.34. Number 3, general fund in the amount of $25,441.21. Number 4, highway in the amount of $30,663.97. And number 5, highway equipment in the amount of $0 for a total of $78,991.87.
Seconded.
Okay, any discussion?
Yes.
Yes?
I guess, yes.
I guess this is as good a place as any. I was advised, and I sent an email out to about it, that an account town has a long-standing 30-day credit was placed on COD because the treasurer either neglected or refused to, for whatever reason, pay the bill for 3 months. That's more than embarrassing. It's bordering on an ethics violation, and it's just totally ridiculous. We have the money allocated to do these things. She gets the bills every month. I know this for a fact. And she neglected to pay these bills to the point, 90 days to the point where they put us on COD. This needs to be corrected. If it needs to go to the Ethics Commission for a violation, fine. If there needs to be a formal reprimand, fine. But something needs to happen with this and get us back in good standing. Again, totally ridiculous.
Is this a credit card bill or is it one purveyor specifically?
It's a vendor. Yes, it's a vendor.
Should we find out which?
Can you tell us which one so we can look?
Yeah,
It's the Napa, Sanel Napa.
It's our parts vendor.
Is this a highway related thing?
Highway and fire department related.
Okay, what does the board think we should do to proceed? I mean, I can say that I'll research it and find out what's happening, but it sounds like Sherwood's already done that.
Sherwood, have you spoken with the treasurer about this? Just wondering if you had any communication.
No.
Okay.
No, I have not. This needs to be a board thing so that it doesn't come up with me trying to tell her what to do.
So you came upon this because of the fire department and realizing that you were on COD?
No, the fire department actually only has one outstanding slip. I was told that it was, quote, the fire department or the highway spending over the last 3 months.
No, we've been paying warrants for the highway department all along. So I'm not sure what they.
I would double check the warrant. I haven't seen the warrants, Ally. I would double check the warrants and see if the Sunel Napa bill, what the status is.
Are Sunel and Napa synonymous?
Well, they're two companies that merged.
Okay,
Same company.
okay, so they are now.
So the last time I went to get parts, he told me that we were placed on COD because the bill hadn't been paid since November.
Okay.
Oh, you got further information than I do.
Yes. Fortunately, we have friends that work there, and he's still supplying us with parts. I'm trying not to spend anything until this issue gets resolved. But
Did you talk to Elaine about
I
it?
have not had a chance. Like every time I come down here, she's either not here or
She's on the phone.
yeah, she's on the phone.
Yeah.
So
So, should we decide upon one of us to investigate this? We probably should make a motion for one of us to do this and have it be a matter of the minutes.
Sounds to me like it's more of a deep dive than just the few minutes we have to address it here.
I think we should make a motion and have one of us talk to Elaine, take notes in our conversation with Elaine, and then if it hasn't been paid, we need to figure it out right away, I would assume. Because we're not going out of business, so it doesn't look good for us to operate that way. And I'm sure there's penalties if you don't pay for that long. So,
Well, it's certainly as far as the penalties go, if we need a part, on a Friday afternoon to put a critical piece of equipment back in motion, and they say cash on delivery, we haul Elaine back in to create the check because this is her mess, or there are some substantial issues that can come about when we don't pay our bills. So,
well, I can understand your frustration. So is there anybody that would like to,
I can come in tomorrow. What time is she usually here to? 2:30? 3?
2 o'clock?
I would be safer to be here. Today she left at 2, but I think generally it's 2:15, 2:30.
Okay.
And she comes in at around 10.
Okay. I'll be coming back from
I would suggest, Nick, that you bring somebody with you, whether it be Connie, whether it be just because I've dealt with her in the past on these types of things, and sometimes things get a little twisted.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah. I should be able to get in by around 1. So I'll send her an email in the morning just to give her a heads up, maybe. Make sure that she's still here.
Okay, so should we make a motion to do that, or do we not need that, folks?
Don't move.
So moved, so that means.
Second. I just want to ask we're probably entering into discussion if we just, right?
Moved.
Well,
A couple weeks ago, I saw there was a correspondence that there was a Linden Regional bill that hadn't been paid as well. Did anything come of that?
what correspondence was it?
I was added to the email. It was, I believe it was one of the consulting things that they do for us with the grants. Did you see that, Jeremy? And it was,
possibly.
They said they had-
so many freaking emails.
I'll look it up, but they had invoiced and the invoice hadn't been paid, and it was a couple weeks since it had been paid, so maybe I'll get that information.
I know that
to
the
you.
planning commission is using them, so maybe it was a planning.
It
commission.
wasn't, it
wasn't?
was something
I
having to do
do
with the
recall
grants, I
something
believe.
being said about.
I'll dig it up. I had assumed it had been resolved, but maybe that wasn't the best course of action on my part.
Yeah.
Feels related, so I'll try to find it and send it to you.
Okay. Yeah. That'd be great.
Any further discussion? I mean, we don't meet again until after town meeting, so should we try to get this figured out right away and call a special meeting if there's an emergency of some sort, if we feel it's,
We'll see you after tomorrow.
okay. Okay,
Need to take a vote.
yeah, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So 4. Okay, and we approved the warrants and then went into that. And now we have the highway report.
Not much to report on. Truck 3 is back, complete, and fully functional, so that's good news.
And say the other good news.
Oh, the grant?
No, the money for truck 3. That we thought it was gonna be much more,
Oh, it did?
and it came in much, much less.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
We had
that's-
allotted, I think, no more than 35, and I think the total bill ended up being 26 something,
Yeah,
so that was good news. Hopefully the mud doesn't come out too fast. We're in the season now, so. That's it.
that's
We're
it.
finally catching up on some sleep.
Good.
Good.
Anything from you guys? Any questions?
And you'll keep us posted about your surgery?
Yeah, I have a doctor's appointment on Wednesday.
That's tomorrow?
No, next Wednesday,
Okay.
after the day after town meeting. That's an assessment on a root canal I have to have done, and then I'll find out when that surgery is, and then I won't be able to schedule my hip surgery until after I have tooth surgery, so.
Okay. So we'll be into spring by then.
April probably,
Yeah.
end of April, I'm thinking.
And when you're out, for how long would you guess, 2 weeks or?
It could be up to a month.
Okay. And Billy would be in charge then?
Yeah, I mean, he's the second in, sooner or
Longevity?
and so, I mean, it's still gonna be early spring, we'll be dealing with mud and grading, so there'll be plenty of stuff for them guys to do, so.
Good. Good.
Prepping some of our ditching project areas by cutting brush, stuff like that.
All right, did we get a treasurer's report in here? Here we have the little one-pager treasurer report from the M&T Bank. We have $1,350,083.28. However, we have a school payment coming up due soon. And then we have our regular $30,000 in sweep account money. And then the town clerk brought in for the first 2 weeks in February, $1,178.30. And the chair, what do I have to say today, Connie? I can't remember, we said something. Maybe not. I'll come back to it if I can think of anything wonderful, except we did have a very good pre-town meeting last night. We invited all of the people, the groups putting in money requests from the town, and they all came, and then there were about a dozen other townspeople that came, and everybody was asked good questions and was very polite and happy, and it was kind of pleasant. So now I'll turn it over to our grant coordinator.
Okay, so Connie put in the packet this really cool thing where they had published, the Historic Preservation had published our grant in here that we were awarded for the slate roof, which is exciting. On that end, I think we are in the process of getting to the point where we can schedule with the contractor. We just had to do some paperwork with him, between him and the town, and we should be getting on his schedule, and he had said to expect the work in the spring, so that's really good. I did hear back just 2 days ago or so from the T-Mobile grant. We didn't get that one again, so I think that I'll have to follow a different lead for that. Such a bummer, but last time, so they award these they score them in phases. This time we got almost to the end because it's by the weeks. So
But would you try it again? It doesn't cost
doesn't
you
hurt me to try it again. Yeah, I'll try it again.
And plus you have all that information to plug into something else.
Exactly, and I mean, and it's a great, template for when I do find the right thing. If we keep getting denied for this one, but it doesn't cost any money. I switch the dates, and
Yeah,
check in
I
with
think
the
it's
contractors, you know.
slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah, and actually it's been opening up some more time to try to figure out that equipment housing. We have that little bit of money to the side in the economic impact grant, and I've been very slowly playing email tag with Falvey Pool because I thought they might have some insight on pool filters and things, because I was told by the guy in Newfane that our filter and pump setup is for a pool. So I thought they were the appropriate people to go to. A lot of contractors are like, I'm not touching like that equipment housing is just strange to a lot of contractors. I think it's not big enough of a thing. So that's been giving me more time to kind of look into that and just try to see who works on things like that. I really think it has to be a pool person.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel that way. So, and there seems to only really be one or two of those around.
And it's also giving you more time to concentrate on the entire common.
Yes.
And I'm very excited about kind of a large, happy common.
Yeah.
And I think it would slow traffic down.
Oh, yeah.
You
I
know,
think so.
Because if people come around the corner and they've got something really interesting to see, they're going to slow down and look.
Yeah.
So.
And I've been taking advantage of this thing. As I had said before, I've been taking these like project development courses through the VLCT. And then they also offer this service where you can call them and you can set up a time to talk. You kind of bring your ideas, and then they're familiar with kind of all of the grants that have been awarded in the area and opportunities in Vermont. And so they'll like point you in directions. So I have one of those scheduled with them so I can meet with them. And it's the same people that give the trainings that I've been taking, so there's a little bit of familiarity there. And so what I had one scheduled, and then I pushed it back because I thought, I want to take these ideas of the common, these different things that I've seen opportunities for, and kind of come up with, is this multiple projects? Is this one big project? How is
Master
it?
plan and then maybe divide.
Yeah, so that's been taking me a couple weeks to kind of do the
I think
brainstorm
it's smart.
and put it into categories and what it fits. So that's what I've been working on the most.
While you're on that topic,
Yeah.
Wyndham Regional is a very underused resource for us. It's been years since anything's been really done with them. So, tapping into that network that they have, and they've been expanding to different things, is a really good idea. And we pay for it already. So we might as well be using it.
Yeah, we do. We use them with the highway stuff a bunch, which has been nice. So I've learned a bunch there. And then I think it was last year we sat with Wyndham Regional for
The MTAP.
the MTAP grants, which we didn't end up being eligible for, but they were cutting some of that program. But I do keep an eye on that website, on the Wyndham Regional website, for the different services. So maybe I'll contact them in addition to the VLCT for those things. And then otherwise I'm going to be moving into basically the project management of the slate roof. It's going to be a really quick repair, I imagine, but I'm required to do some paperwork, take a lot of pictures. Not required to like publicize any of that, but I do have to like submit all of that at the end. So I'll need to be here, check in each time he's here to doing the work. And I actually thought that I might ask him to fly his drone again, because that's how he diagnosed the building. And if he's up on the building and the drone goes over him or something, I thought that would be a neat set of pictures to have.
Get
Because
Nick's house too.
yeah, and because they did ask in the application that you try to take really aesthetically pleasing pictures because they use them in their publications. And also to that end, I've been doing some local digging on our windows upstairs. I've been talking to some people that I spoke to at the Stone Arch Bridge opening, some of the contractors in the area that were interested in that project, and I'm kind of trying to put it in some people's ears that maybe since they were so happy with that, would they want to come look at our windows? Yeah. Because ideally we would apply for the same grant again with the windows, because when they visited us, that's kind of pretty much what they told us to do. Start with the roof, move on to the windows. So those are all things that are on my radar.
Did you get any feedback on the T-Mobile? Why?
They don't give feedback. They say they're getting a lot more applications each time.
Yeah.
But I do know, based on the scoring system that they had set out, that we made it probably 2 weeks further than we did last
Yeah.
time, which I think is good.
Yeah.
So, and I can always edit a document.
Yeah.
Just look at it again, like I did last time, and make some tweaks to it. So.
While we're talking about grants, do we need to do anything as a board to approve the check for Friday? Or have we already done that?
We've already approved entering into the contract, so this is just making the payment. And
Okay.
since it's not in the warrants, if we give a directive, she's happy to cut it this week and send it out. So we just need to have you guys sign it.
Would you like to read that as part of your grant?
To the Townsend Town Treasurer, per a vote of the Select Board to enter into a contract with Jansowitz and Son to repair the Town Hall roof. This is to direct the Townsend Treasurer to pay Jansowitz and Son a deposit on the roof repair contract in the amount of $6,473. The deposit shall be paid from the fiscal year 25 special article appropriation for the repair of Town Hall from the Townsend Select Board.
Okay. Do we need a motion then for paying that? I'd like to make a motion to direct the treasurer to pay this check in the amount of $6,473 for the repair of the town hall stable.
I'll second that.
Who was the contractor?
Jansowitz and Son.
No, it's okay.
And they were, when I brought them back, their name back to the Vermont Preservation people, they said they have a really good reputation and they were happy to have them. I didn't have to do their vetting process because they've worked with them before.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The contractor that is assigned to our building is named Travis Dunbar.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 So 4. Okay, where are we now? We're on to old business, temporary expenditure request policy. We had brought up the fact that we have 4 more months of the budget year to go, and should we have a spending cap on items, and how would we proceed with that? And the board was going to think about it from the interim from last month. So I would say, do we need a motion to talk about it?
I think usually you do a motion to approve it,
And
and then
then,
you have the discussion,
and then-
and whether or not it passes is
Right.
a whole other thing.
so,
All right, I make a motion to approve the temporary expenditure request policy, effective tomorrow, now.
I mean, there are some things in this draft that would need filling in. Oh, because of the effective date.
Second?
okay, so it's up for discussion, folks.
So one thing is, if we approve this now, then we have to go through the approval for the Napa and perhaps the Wyndham Regional past due payments as well. Those would probably fall in here. I mean, assuming they're over $500. So that would be still 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now, if we would be able to approve that at the
Or
next
you
meeting.
conduct special.
Or a special meeting.
Or we could say that there is a freeze except for things that are past due, because we have things we bought last week that aren't the Sunel orders. So it could be for anything, any new purchases from this date forward. And then those would be old purchases.
Yep.
The other thing is, I think it shouldn't just be the highway, I think it should be all of the, I don't know why we would single out just the highway, you know?
You wouldn't. It should be townwide.
Right.
If you're going to lock into something like this, which it's not a bad idea this time, especially this time of year, then the only thing clarifying is it going to be $500 per company or $500 total threshold before you bring it back to the town that's already voted on? You understand what I mean?
You're saying, is it $500 for the entire bill or $500 for the item?
Well, let's take a company like Snell's, okay? There's a bill for $500, or let's just say $500. But then you talk to the next company and there's a bill for $500. Now, are you talking about $500 cap, say, in a month, or are you talking about $500 cap on an incident?
Situation.
When I first started thinking about it, I was thinking per item, but I'm happy to open it up to a discussion of the board. I mean, because it's just that we have to be careful because we're feeling a lot of red flags coming up to the end of our fiscal year. And this is a way to do it. And if we put our heads together, I know we can come up with a good solution. I personally don't want to push it off till the next meeting.
Yeah.
No, you need to move on it.
The draft that was submitted, does that cover everything? It's in conjunction with the procurement policy, which is a very good policy. The only issue with the procurement policy, if I remember correctly, was there were people who were exempt from having to get approval, and we may want to temporarily revisit who those people are that are exempt from approval, right?
What page is that on? Do you
I can't remember what, I think it's on page 2. It starts on page, no, it's really on page 3, but it starts on page 2.
Yeah.
And I personally would think that nobody would be exempt when you have a temporary
Correct.
policy like this.
Because I think what we're doing is two things, actually. If you ask me, we're adhering to this policy, but we're putting a freeze as well. So I think we should talk about the policy and talk about the freeze as two parts of one decision we're making.
So everybody with an asterisk: fire chief and assistant chief, emergency management, town clerk, treasurer, listers, planning commission, cemetery commission, and library board may only make purchases within the scope of their individual operating budget. If funds for the project will exceed that budget, further approval of select board will be required. The only people exempt from that rule are select board chair, vice chair, and highway department supervisor.
But it's still allowing people to spend money,
Right,
and that's not a freeze.
right. So we freeze
Right,
everyone.
Can I jump in on this just with a little knowledge from the post office?
Sure.
We have on our credit cards, our personal use ones, a purchase limit, single purchase limit, and a monthly cap on each individual's amount of spending. So I don't know if that works with how the town might want to do it, but it does allow us to, make a big item, say a pump fails or something like that, but then not have, and have a cap at the end of the month.
And I think that might be a good idea going forward when we get it more defined. I'm not sure we're going to flesh that out in tonight. Connie has her hand up, Sean.
I think that I am concerned about if the intent is to create a slowing down, a review, a discussion of bigger purchased items, that I do think we have to modify that line that allows them to spend up to their budget, because you could blow through and go up to 100%.
Right now and have nothing left.
Yep. So I like the single purchase limit. I think that's the $500. Maybe there is a monthly thing, but the more layers we add, I think maybe the harder it is to monitor. I'm not sure.
Well, we also have every purchase I make has a budget review, a 2-step budget review. It goes through my boss and then the finance office. So that could be another, layer of protection you could add.
Right. There could be a review.
And I think going forward, that might be a good way to structure this. Right now, for this freeze, I think we have to be more simplistic, like it's just this. And it's just, nobody can spend. And if Jeremy has something that breaks for over $500, we have to address it at a meeting, be it an emergency meeting or not. And,
One other thing to throw into the mix here that is getting more cloudy, but you have an emergency situation. And I'll take an example. I have a $15,000 limit for an emergency. Now it's intended that that limit is applied to whatever FEMA or return from damage or whatever we have in town. And hopefully in the next 4 months, there won't be something like that. But if we get an emergency circumstance where you have to spend, $2,000 or $3,000, you don't have the time to bring it through a review process. So that's where you kind of have to rely on them to spend within their normal budget. And it might be that much before a review can take place.
but are you saying that a select board approval would equal a review?
Well, yeah. If the select board wants to review these expenditures over $500, that can be, that can be brought about. That can be possible. I think if you announce to everyone that $500 is it until we bring that before the board to review, that'll be fine. But when you've got an emergency, you don't have time for that.
Well, and at that point, they would contact the chair of the select board and.
No, you don't even, not in that situation. As long as they don't go over their yearly budget in that type of situation, then they're okay as long as it's an emergency. If it's something that is not an emergency, $500 is the limit. That's it.
What qualifies an emergency? A truck breaking down or a natural disaster?
Disaster, threat to life. The one of the things, again, I'll give you an example from emergency management. If you have a section of town that people have lost pretty much everything, in an emergency, we need to bring them into a sheltering situation that we're going to have to pay for. That's the reason for that $15,000. And that can add up really quick. So you get a fire where it's taking out building after building after
not home.
building.
She's under meeting.
Sean, you gotta mute.
You hurt your butt snowboarding?
Sean, you gotta
I promise you.
mute. Sean, you gotta mute. Oh my god.
You can mute him.
He's gonna keep yelling at a kid.
About their
I mean,
butt.
Sorry.
I just muted him.
So anyway, that's just something that you kind of.
So we have a motion on the floor. Would you like to amend the motion and clarify it with the emergency data that you
Add
just,
language, maybe?
that you just said, Sherwood?
Yeah. Connie, do you have it?
I have the draft in front of me.
Yeah.
It has.
About the note, what I just said.
I have, in the case of emergency, defined as disaster, threat to life, or sheltering. I would, something like, that emergencies defined as such and such would be exempt from this temporary policy,
Correct.
something like that.
Yes.
And I think we can flesh out the, it probably can be fleshed out at the next board meeting for a final for a final draft. I mean, I don't think this really needs to be too in-depth. You just want people to think about what they're spending and kind of do it with care. And the board should be the ones that review it.
Right, so we want to make sure, yeah, it says the select board will review, consider, and approve / reject expenditure at the select board meeting following the request. Now, the select
Or
board
a
meeting,
special meeting.
well, but a select board meeting could be a select board meeting, yeah.
And do we have in there that it's for all purchases from today forward?
So we
So
could,
that anything that's due that might be over $500 can be paid?
we could say just
Yeah.
any new expenditures on that threshold on expenditures, just add the word new.
Any new expenditures as of
As
Yeah.
of whatever the effective date
12/22/26?
Yeah,
Because
whatever
we
we-
make it
Yeah.
effective immediately.
Yeah, otherwise is if it's very simple and straightforward, it's easy to fulfill.
Agreed. Shall we vote on this?
So just there would be a third bullet that would probably say exemptions or something like that. And then say emergencies defined as natural disasters, threat to life, and sheltering shall be exempt from this temporary policy.
Yes,
Just say
I
such
would
as.
agree with that.
Such as,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that could be like letter B. So new expenditures, emergencies. Did we want to add the monthly cap in addition to the per instance cap?
And do we also want to say something about no department head or anybody is exempt? Whatever that language is.
Yeah, the purchasing agents.
Yeah, right, all purchasing agents will be bound by this.
Yeah.
That would be 4.
And what about, paying things that we owe, like, $4,000 a month for rescue, that would not be included in this because it's not a purchase and it's a prior obligation?
Good point. Because it's part of a contract.
That's what I think, but I'm not sure, because we
Yeah.
don't want to bog the whole system down.
Right.
So this says new expenditures. We could say not including contract obligations or something like that.
Yeah, because we do have a couple of big ticket items that we need
We
to.
have a lot. We have Europa, VLCT.
Oh, yeah.
We have,
Yeah.
there's a lot of, we've entered into a lot of contracts. Wyndham Regional.
So, yeah,
Should
I
I
think
say
that.
not including contract obligations, something like that?
Established contract.
Revolving
Obligations.
expenses.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. That way it should be pretty clear.
See what we can do if we put our heads together, guys.
Okay.
Okay, we can put this to a vote and we can always revisit when we get blowback.
Now, are we voting on the amendment?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Did you want Connie to read it again?
Oh, I'm clear with it. We just need a second on the amendment.
Okay, I can second the
Wait a
amendment.
minute.
Oh, wait.
What, there hasn't been an amendment yet. We've had a discussion.
I would like to amend my motion to include the changes that we have proposed in discussion.
Did I second you initially?
Yep.
Okay, I'm second.
Okay.
There we go. So now we vote on the amendment.
Now, all we need to do is vote, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. So now we are on to a town hall common use policy. You know, I have an opinion. I think this should be on the top of the pile of things to do after town meeting.
I agree.
Because we have had it up to here with all the town meeting getting ready stuff. And this is important, but I don't want to rush through it. And I want a clear head personally that's not bogged down with wondering how many microphones we need, et cetera. You know,
Yeah. I agree with you. I saw some stuff when I was looking at minutes about highway discussions for my preparation for town meeting, and I saw some stuff that we had discussed that didn't get put in the policy the last time we passed the temporary one. So I tried to make a little bit of notes of that. I do not really want to be the spearheader of this. Maybe we'll give it to a member of the board.
indoctrination by fire. My only personal opinion is we like to give things to townspeople who pay taxes gratis, but I also would love a little box at the top that said voluntary donation to town hall support, because if you're getting the building for free, and you might say, well, I'm gonna give them $100 for the building, and then we could start to save up to do the things we want to do.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to if she raises the same question at town meeting that she did last night, that wider discussion, because maybe there'll be some ideas the members of the public have about it. I mean, the insurance thing has always been part of the policy as far as I've known, but I think that larger discussion, if it happens, would be good for helping us really hone in on this policy.
So do you want to put motion to table it?
Yes.
Okay, I'll do that. Motion to table the policy about town hall and common use until after town meeting.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the next is TextMyGov App, and I'm going to turn it over to Connie.
So at the last select board meeting, so just take us one step back. After the two emergencies or the incidences that happened with Grace Cottage Hospital that led to a lockdown at the high school, but no notification to the town hall, but people were calling town hall and we didn't have any information to give. Alenka entered into a conversation, I don't know if they called her or if she called them, but entered into a conversation with a company that does an opt-in text blasts. So it's sort of like Vermont VT alerts, where the entity that has this app can send out, emergency alerts, communication alerts, road closures alerts, things like that. This company also allows for residents to text the municipality about concerns or things that they've seen. So it's a two-way street. At the last meeting, the select board decided they wanted to do some more research on this because we have budget, the select board decided to budget money in fiscal year 26 for possibly
something like this.
For possibly entering into something like this. However, the company has said if we move faster, they would forego the $500 setup fee. We don't have this budgeted for in our fiscal year 25 budget, but maybe there's a consideration about, since there's been two incidences already, do we want to move ahead and enter into this in fiscal year 25?
And it's still $3,000 of unbudgeted money that we
It's unbudgeted money.
Yeah.
So at the last meeting, there was some questions. You sent me back to ask Europa if they know anything about this and have an opinion about these types of apps, whether or not they provide a service. Europa has not responded to my request. You asked me to see what other towns are doing. That's in the document that I provided you. And then I attempted to reach out to towns that have this app. Middlebury, Waterbury, and then there's one other, begins with an H, that Alenka heard about today, has just entered into it. So Middlebury, Waterbury have been using it, although neither of them have gotten back to my email and calls. And then this one that they just started with it, it's too early for them to say whether or not they recommend it or not.
And did you look to see if there were other like services?
So I did, an amateur attempt. I Googled it, came up with a list that I reported last time. Don't understand half of what they are. WhatsApp is what WhatsApp's on there. I don't know if it's appropriate for municipalities. SMS, which I guess is an older school one that maybe federal government uses. I don't know. But there are some out there, but I don't know if they're as interactive or if they're just a one-way. I don't know enough.
So
about
like
that.
when the school calls school off and all the employees and families get texts, that's a one-way system.
Right.
So this would be a
Two-way
two-way.
system. This is a little different.
Do you
this
know
will
anything
also-
about that, Sherwood, with emergency?
Oh, yeah.
Vermont Alerts, we are a member of that.
But that's one way. I think that's
That
one.
sends out emergency alerts to over 2,000 people that have registered for Town of Townsend. Now, the issue with Vermont Alerts, it is a very structured situation that you can put messages in. Meaning, if you put in things like political meetings, you put in things about things that don't represent some kind of immediate response or emergencies, you're going to get kicked off the system. It's very straight line. There's not any wiggle room. You cannot text back to it. WhatsApp is an app that, like most people who have iPhones know messages. People that use Facebook have messages. It's another one of those services. I believe is free, but it comes with some entanglements. You can get bogged down with, you blast a message out there, and then people that have nothing to do with it start responding back and forth, and you don't know who you're talking to. SMS is a internet protocol that if you have a service like the iPhone Messenger, you can get SMS messages through it. But if you have an Android, SMS is the standard. It's not a service, it's a standard. The problem that I see with this whole idea is that you're not in the event of emergency, if that either one of those situations went horribly wrong, and you start putting out messages on a system, you're going to get flooded, and you're going to start people panicking unless you're extraordinarily careful.
And are you going to be able to respond to them?
Yes, that's the thing. Do you have time to read every one of those messages that could be, you could have 10 people working on just the responses to those messages and still not know where they're coming from. The problem with what happened is not a breakdown in technology. It's a breakdown in the people who should understand that there are, 3 calls that you need to make. You need to call the town hall, you need to call school, and you need to call law enforcement. Maybe not in that order, but they need to do that.
Yeah.
And you can have
But I
30
think
different applications that'll cause problems and still have the same issue if you don't get the call.
Well, I agree that there was a breakdown in communication, but I think what Alenka was saying is even if we were one of the calls, what do we do with that information to protect residents? I think that's why she's inclined.
You call me.
You call me, and I put the information out.
The VT alerts, right?
Yeah.
So
Like I said, we have 2,200. The town's only got 1,300 people in it. So somebody's registering for Townsend with 2,200. So, and that was just the last check that I made. And that gets out to a fair number of people. And you can actually sign up for it so that it calls your home telephone when there's an alert.
But it's still only one way. Like
It's the only way to be able to deal with it.
yeah. Well, I'm just asking.
No, I think that, right, Lenka was saying she was interested also in the communication that could come to the town from residents. Like, oh, I noticed that there's a tree down on State Forest Road, could be texted to the town. Like things like that, like a communication from the residents to the town.
And I personally have a concern that Olenka's one person, and if it took off and had a lot of even sometimes minuscule things, then it would be like too much for her, and then it would be we weren't answering them, and would they all be of paramount importance? You know, would it be like an emergency line, or if somebody's dog's barking at night? You know.
If it's an emergency, the last thing you want to do is have 14 different people sending out those messages on different applications. It needs to be a
Coordinated
effort that has a certain message to it.
And with you at the head, so that one person knows what's going on.
Yeah, and actually, there's a couple of ways that you can do this. You call me or email me, or there's a phone number that you can call the state. It's the I can dig it up for you, but it's one they use to report issues going on, and say that you need to put out a Vermont alerts, and they will get the person who's responsible for it on the phone. It's not the same person every time. It's whoever's on call, and they will put out the alert, and they will also ensure that it meets the guidelines. So somebody else has to be, or there has to be somebody else that's authorized besides me to do that. Right now, it's only myself, the fire chief, the assistant fire chief, and that's it right now. But it's got to be a control list.
Okay, so what are we going to do about the TextMyGov app on our agenda?
I do think
Honestly, I would tell Alenka to set up a town Facebook page and use that platform to talk back and forth about non-emergency things. Somebody finds a tree down. I mean, they all know, God knows they all know how to use that. Somebody finds, they can make that request or information. And the biggest thing about it is it's free. You don't have to pay anything else.
Mm-hmm.
There's no setup. It takes you 5 minutes. I mean, I set up the town's emergency management Facebook page, and I do a lot of sharing what's coming to me about weather and emergency situations, so on and so forth. But she could use that and advertise that for people to touch base back and forth. I know she's part of the Vermont or the Towns and Families page, so she knows how to do it.
Yeah, well, and if we do it by town meeting, we can have like a little note card that says this is our new Townsend page.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
So I guess there's no reason for a motion or anything with that?
well, we do, the select board, she's getting calls from the company, so she needs to know whether or not she's moving on it.
I would say no myself, but I mean, I guess
I think that
we
have to come to the board.
must need to have a vote then. So,
Whether it's a perm,
Do we have a motion already or no?
no. I mean, you could take, you could do a motion to either just reject it or to not act upon it at this time.
I think
It can't be a negative
we have to
motion.
make
We have
that,
to go, we have to go through a motion
I'd like to make a
to
motion.
accept it.
I'd like to
Go
make a
ahead,
motion to accept the TextMyGov proposal.
and then second,
I'll use
You
it.
can die for a lack of a second.
Yeah, I just said a second.
Yeah, too.
I think we've had enough discussion. All those in favor? All those opposed? Aye.
I,
4 oppositions. Okay, so now we're on to new business. Wyndham Solid
Well, we
Waste.
still have the greater ad.
Oh, gosh, yes, scribbled in there. Sorry, I missed it. Greater classified advertisement. And that
It's a
is,
separate document because it came in afterwards.
thank
But
you.
everybody has it. Sherwood has it too.
And
yes, I do.
has everybody read it?
Yes.
Yes.
And Connie has written where she is going to copiously post it.
If anybody has any other ideas or suggestions, let me know.
And she's gonna contact 3 people who have expressed possible interest. And
I do put the question out about, do we want a deadline for people to submit their offers?
Yeah, I think there probably should be a deadline. You know,
And and Alenka is going to help me create the Facebook page, so I think Friday is the day that it's going to start getting posted. I would need to know what the deadline
Saturday's the
is.
1st. So, we would either do the 15th or the 31st,
give it a month.
Like,
30.
so the next, not the next town select board meeting, but the one following, end of March.
In the March.
How about if I do end of March, the day before, like we do bids?
Right. Day
Monday
before
the
Yeah.
last select board meeting?
Okay, do we need that date in the motion?
Is there a motion?
I
So
don't know.
the
I'm not sure there needs to be
The
a
last
motion.
select board meeting is the 24th of March, because
The
the
next
31st, the last of March is
So
the
it'll be the
24th.
23rd of March.
Yeah.
It's the 25th of March. It's a select board meeting.
Oh, yeah, so the
Am I looking at the wrong
24th.
date? Oh, yeah.
So the 25th is the date.
Okay.
24th.
Is there any information on there about where they can view it or who they need to contact?
That's a good point. Where they could come
Or
and
they
look at
can
it.
view
And that's just contact, for viewing, contact the road foreman at the. Okay. Okay, so then, starting Friday, we'll go out. And we'll have flyers at town meeting as well.
Okay, and then Wyndham Solid Waste Management District Multi-Town Trash Collection RFP and contract negotiations.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah. And Sherwood, are you up to speed with what we've done here?
no,
We
no.
We consolidated with some other towns. We had a pizza meeting here, pizza provided by Wyndham Solid Waste. And other towns came in and we talked about how we would have better buying power basically if we were larger dollar buyers by joining forces. And that's what the RFP is all about. Yeah, Connie wants to speak.
So it's, the idea is to have one RFP. Each town would have their own specifics, but it would be one RFP for up to 19 towns, depending on when their contract with Casella ends and whatnot. But the Wyndham Solid Waste went back and their board of directors voted to take on the role of creating a RFP for any of their 19 members who want to participate, and to act as the chief negotiator with any companies that put in a bid. And we decide, and these towns decide. So what they want is they want the select board to decide whether or not to vote, to decide whether or not to participate in this process, and then to designate a representative who would sit on the negotiating committee with whatever company gets the bid.
Is that a representative per town?
Yeah, each town would put one together. And again, I think there was 7 towns that participated so far, but they are putting the outreach to all of their members, which I think is 19.
Who are they going to? They're going to put out an RFP for companies to bid on. Is that the purpose of it?
On trash collection.
So that we, the large consortium, would look more attractive than Townsend or Wardsboro would alone.
Yeah.
And
No, I get that part. I just Casella is a national company. Who else are they going to get?
He said that
There's regional
he said that
ones
there's
popping up.
one in that Waste Management just did a contract in Keene.
And there's one in
Springfield.
Springfield, Alva, something like that.
So there's a couple other around. What we were finding when we were looking at the stuff about the info for each town from Casella is that there's really their prices that they charge any given town are just all over the map. And
They're
this
not
is gonna
cheap, but they're very varied.
yeah. So that this is gonna hopefully help us. Everybody to get a leg to stand on in this, so not just have to have this one company and applying all of these different prices to things, and maybe contain some costs there.
When you got competition, you can't stand there and demand everything under the sun. So no, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
The only question I had was, who else is there? And you just answered it.
Well, even like Good Enough in Guilford, I think they are.
We're
or
in
some-
Brattleboro. He's
in
originally
Brattleboro.
out of Guilford.
Yeah, but like their company said, we're not quite big enough yet, but if it was a whole bunch of towns that were joining on, then it would pay for us to get bigger fast and compete for the job. And so I think it's gonna be surprising how it might stir up different parts of the issue.
Yeah.
I can make the motion if we want to make a motion.
Okay,
I'd like to make a motion for the town of Townsend to join in the collective RFP with what is it?
Wyndham Solid Waste.
Wyndham Solid Waste Management, and to Ally, I'm gonna ask if you can be authorized to sit on the negotiating committee
okay,
for that.
Second.
okay, and I think we've had enough discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, the ayes have it. Okay, our final item, unless we have an executive session, is gravel crushing bid. And that is, Connie, do you and Jeremy want to speak to this?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've never brought it before the board before. I've always just put it out, but we're just, I don't know.
So this, so Jeremy raised a while ago, I think last spring, that we're running out of gravel in the town pit, and that most likely it would mean logging and getting more dirt down to create more stones for a company to come in and crush. So I think in the fall, we put out a bid to have a company come in and log. So the first stage is to log, and then the second stage would be to put out a bid for gravel crushing. The first time we put out an RFP, several companies and loggers came and raised some questions, so we withdrew the RFP till we could have a better understanding of what it is that we wanted to log. We put out another RFP, and again, some questions came up about how many acreages, is there a plan, a forestry plan? And so I think once again, we are withdrawing the RFP for us to be able to put together a plan for that, for the gravel pit.
The other thing with the gravel pit is after talking with Irving and Larry Gould recently, back years ago, they went around and dug test holes to see where the good material was, and I guess there's only a few spots left that have good material in it, other than having to get, when we get to a point that it's gonna be ledge, does the town wanna start paying for ledge to be blasted? At what point do we stop using the pit? That's another thing that needs to be planned. I've asked everybody I know was there a written plan, any kind of plan on what the future of the pit was supposed to be, and everybody says, no. They were just winging it, I guess, but so.
Even Irvin said that?
Pretty much, yeah. So, I don't think.
There is a forester that was involved, Tim Morton, who is willing to come in and have a conversation
He's the
with us.
state forest.
Yeah.
State forester.
Yeah.
So.
And is
But that's
that
more about logging, not so much
Right,
about the gravel.
right.
Well, he
So-
might know because one of the loggers that was talked about what kind of trees are in different spots, and that indicates what is
Right.
underneath the soil. So a logger might really give you some valuable.
So I guess it was Larry that dug the test holes, and he knows where and what's in there. So, I guess it's just a matter of we need to start thinking for the future. Do we continue to use the pit as a gravel pit and then possibly have to blast ledge to crush, or do we start outsourcing the gravel somewhere?
And this Tim Morton with the state, is that a cost to us,
I
or
don't think so, because he works for the state. I don't know, but I can
can
contact him.
we ask Connie to contact him and find out those things?
Didn't he contact them once before?
Not yet.
No?
I contacted the Wyndham County
Oh,
forester who said it's not really his jurisdiction.
And this $60,000 is in our fiscal year 25 budget, right?
and then-
So my understanding, I don't mean to speak for Jeremy, but we had a conversation. Jeremy thinks that we can go ahead with crushing gravel this spring because there most likely is enough to get us through this summer, but we would need a plan for next year.
correct.
That would be the logging, the stumping, Yeah.
So I have, what are we, 25 now, I have 60,000 in 25 budget.
Yeah.
And proposed 60 for 26.
I remember that, yeah.
So, years ago, even when I started in 2018, it was always 40,000, and we would get somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000 yards of material. Well, last year for $40,000, I got 4,000 yards. So
Yeah.
the prices have gone up. That's why I've raised the monies so that I can get some more volume, because our roads are in desperate need of gravel.
Yeah.
Especially with the last couple of winters that we've had with the freeze thaw, you plow, you take a lot of material off the road when you plow in the soft snow, so.
Okay. We have come to the end. Does anybody have anything else?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I just this is my last regular select board meeting. I'm not going to stand for election during town meeting. Health concerns over the last year and moving forward, not critical, but it's not something that I can put the amount of time and effort into that I used to be able to. Thank everybody on the board, my past boards, and the people that put me in the select board through elections for the last 4 years. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Thank you, Sherwin.
Thank you for everything you've done, and we'll still communicate with you about fire department and emergency, right?
Yep.
Good.
I plan to stay with both of the emergency management type of organizations. That's my training and background, and I will be able to do them when I take one more thing off my plate. So
Okay, and that surgery went okay?
yeah, I'm still building up some strength, and I still have to be concerned with falls, but yeah.
Well, let us know if you ever need anything, and thank you. Thank you.
Sherwin.
Thanks.
Okay, let's adjourn the meeting at 7:10. Oh, let's take a vote to adjourn the meeting. I make a motion to adjourn the
Second.
meeting. All those in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Third and fourth. Okay, thank you, everybody.